Welcome back. This is The Manager, presented by Outlier Sports. I am your host, Gianni Frangella. Very interesting week 3 in the NFL, um, and very disappointing if you were my fantasy team. But nonetheless, we're here to talk about some football. Um, Real quick, just going to throw this in about NBA, and then I'll get back into the football. Fred VanVleet tore his ACL. That is a very crushing blow to the Houston Rockets after acquiring KD. Very good offseason, as I said multiple times in my offseason reviews and expectations for the upcoming year. That vaulted them into a very elite, high contender status that I would say they're still in, but they don't have a point guard. And you need one of those. You do need one of those. And they cannot really get one until December 15th because a lot of the players that they would want to trade are caught up in contracts where they cannot be traded until December 15th. The only guys that they can trade till December 15th are Katie, Shengun, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, guys that they obviously want to hold on to. So it's all on you, Reed Shepard. It is all on you, or else they're going to have to make some moves come December 15th. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now we're going to get into the NFL football. So, very interesting week. Last week I started off with my Super Bowl matchup, and I think that's how I'm going to do this every week. My Super Bowl matchup last week was the Ravens and the Packers, and I have since flipped on that because the Ravens have shown me some things that frankly disappoint me. And I think that is going to catch up with them before they can get to the Super Bowl. So I'm flipping my stance to the Bills and the Packers. And I have a buddy who's a Chiefs fan that said, "What about the Chiefs?" after he saw what I said last week. I mean, they could do it for sure. I'm never going to say that the Chiefs can't do it, but if, through 2 weeks, through 3 weeks, if you're asking me, do I think that they're going to make the Super Bowl? No, that's not my pick right now. They absolutely could. They could prove me wrong. They could do the typical Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chiefs magic. How do they always end up there? I would not be surprised, but they're not who I'm going to pick. I got the Bills Packers, and I'm keeping with the Packers even though they had that loss because I don't think one loss really defines you. The Ravens for me, it was even less about the loss to the Lions, but more so just the fashion in which it happened and how they lost to the Bills and just certain things about it that it icked me. So I got the Bills and the Packers. Um, and I may flip on this several times. And I know last week I said I'd pick the Ravens over the Bills because I think they would make it a point to win over the Bills. However, certain things in this Lions game, made me think they're not as mentally tough as I thought. This weekend against the Chiefs, I expect them to win. And if they do, then maybe, we'll see how I think about it. If they don't, then it'll really change. It'll really shape how I think about them as a contender moving forward. But nonetheless, Bills Packers. That's my pick for the Super Bowl. Dark horses, I still got the Chargers. Overachievers, last week I had the Colts and the Cardinals. I'm taking both of these teams off but for different reasons. The Colts, I don't know if you can really call them an overachiever. I think they're just a good team. I mean, they gave it to Tennessee, and that's not that necessarily makes you, oh, you're such this great team, but what more could you ask from them through 3 weeks, And Daniel Jones is impressive. I'll talk about that more later, but I mean, I think the Colts are just a good team. They'll probably win 10, maybe 11 games, probably maybe win a playoff game, maybe not. That's probably about it. But they're going to be like a feel-good story of the year. So I'm taking the Colts off there because I think they're good enough. The Cardinals, I'm taking them off because I think they've hit their mark. They lost to Mac Jones and the Niners. I'd say you're no longer overachieving. You are achieving. I'm putting on this list the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, take this one with a grain of salt because I still think they're a great team, maybe even a Super Bowl team. But I do feel as if I feel very similar to how I felt watching the Chiefs last year. They're winning games by the skin of their teeth. Some games that you feel like maybe they shouldn't have won. But nonetheless, they're winning, so you can't say they're bad. They don't deserve it. but we saw it catch up to the Chiefs. And I feel like it will catch up to the Eagles. So right now I have them as overachievers. Um, Underachievers, I had the Chiefs and the Texans. Same thing. I'm taking both of these teams off this list for different reasons. The Chiefs, I mean, they got to win. Maybe not as convincing as you probably want if you're a Chiefs fan, but they got to win. The Giants look terrible against them. The Chiefs look good. I don't know what more you want. So I'm taking them off this list because I think they are achieving now. Texans, they're also achieving, but not because they did better. They lost. They were 0-3, and I think that they're just a bad team. They're just, I like last week I said, I think they're better than this. Maybe not. They lost to the Jaguars. I think that they're just a bad team, and they're not going to win the division. They're 3 games behind the Colts. I would firmly, I know it's week 3, but you can quote me on this today. The Houston Texans are not going to win the division. So I think they are achieving just because they're a bad team. I'm putting on this list, very disappointingly, the Denver Broncos, my Denver Broncos, because we are 1-2, and both losses are a last-second field goal. And not only are they a last-second field goal, but they are games that you could have won. And they're not only games that you could have won, they are games that you should have won. I've already given my spiel about the Colts game. So consider this my spiel about the Chargers game. That was so gut-wrenching because from the second that Justin Herbert let that ball fly on that, somehow evaded that sack from Benito, let that ball fly, and it somehow landed in Keenan Allen's arms despite what was really good coverage by Riley Moss. I think he kind of had a rough game, and I was really pissed at him in the moment. But the more I watched that play over, I think he was draped over Keenan Allen. Ball just got in there. It was just an incredible pass, an incredible catch, an incredible play, and incredibly disheartening for me because I knew exactly how the rest of the game was going to go after that point. I knew we were going to go 3 and out and take basically no time off the clock in doing it. They were going to get the ball back in semi-decent position. They got to like the 30 or 40, and then they were just going to little by little jip and jap their way up the field until they had a field goal that Cameron Dicker was not going to miss, and they were going to win the game. I knew that from the exact moment that Keenan Allen caught that touchdown, and that's what made that loss so gut-wrenching to me. Because I feel like we lost to the Chargers like that multiple times last year. Bo Nix remains winless against the Chargers. And I think we're better than 1-2. Like, we lost on a last-second field goal to 2 good teams, 2 undefeated teams. And it doesn't mean that we're, I'm trying to gas us up because trust me, I'm pissed. But I think we're better than 1-2, and I think if we have any shame, we should absolutely annihilate the Bengals this week. MVP ladder. Actually, we're going to do predictions real quick. Well, actually, no. Actually, we're going to do a quick rundown of the rest of the games. Then we'll get on to predictions for next week, and then we'll do the MVP ladder. So, Buffalo takes down Dolphins Thursday night. It was kind of routine. You expected this to happen. Really, the Dolphins hung around longer than you'd expect. Bills didn't really put it away, and then Tua threw the interception. The game was over. So, not a whole lot to talk about. Vikings absolutely dominated the Bengals. I had a prediction last week that I will talk about later about the Bengals that it is not going to come to fruition about them staying afloat without Joe Burrow. That is not happening. Jaguars, Texans. This game was really hard to watch. Not that I watched it intensely, but I have like the quad screen for Sunday Ticket, and this one was just brutal. Not interesting. Nothing going on. I think the Texans are just a bad team. Colts, Titans. I think the Colts are a good team. I think the Colts are genuinely legit. I think even though the Titans are 0-3, Cam Ward's got some real promise. I think he's going to be good. But the Colts are legit, man. Colts are good. Commanders of Mariota take down the Raiders. Not much to talk about. Very impressive win by them without Jaden Daniels, but I think the Raiders are just not that good. Eagles Rams, unbelievable ending to that game. Absolutely electric, and one of the many just odd amount of blocked kicks on Sunday. That was a wild ending. Jordan Davis takes it to the house. Honestly, maybe a suspiciously brutal beat for Rams spread betters at -3.5. But I don't know. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm trying to get this podcast off the ground. I can't get it sniped because of conspiracy theories. Uh, Panthers 30-0 on the Falcons. What? Who saw that coming? You could have bet $5 on that being the final score of the game, and I guarantee you a sports book would not have even taken it because the odds of the payout would have been so high. That is unbelievable. You see a little bit in this game what people are suspicious of with Michael Penix. I wouldn't say I'm suspicious of him like long term, but I did say to some people who thought that they were going to win the division this year, maybe pump the brakes because you do have a basic, not a rookie, but like a really young quarterback, young receivers, young running back. It's a young team. And man, you really saw it here against a bad Panthers team, 30-0. Man, that was embarrassing. Got to shake that one off. Steelers Patriots, kind of a typical Steelers grit and grind defensive game, not super entertaining. I think the Steelers are good, okay, maybe they'll probably make the playoffs. Rodgers. I'd say if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm more interested in watching Rodgers than I was with Wilson last year. Browns Packers. Oh man, did the Packers give this game away? Jordan Love in particular with that interception, and it made me think about my Super Bowl prediction a little bit, but ultimately, I just think that the NFC is so weak, and I don't think one game defines a team. I also think the Browns' defense is elite. Their offense is horrible, don't get me wrong, but their defense is really good. Um, Jets, Buccaneers. Uh, this is another prediction I'll get to later, but the Bucks, man, they win in clutch games. Baker is that guy. They figure it out. They get it done. And this is a tough break for the Jets because you probably really wanted that game. Um, so that is unfortunate for them, especially because they kind of made it interesting at the end. Um, let's see here. We got Broncos Chargers. I pretty much already talked about that. We got to figure out a way to get the offense going more. I mean, if it worked great against Indianapolis, but overall, it's about not getting it done when you need it to. When it comes to clutch time offense, you know that you need to get across the field to get a field goal or to not let the other team get a field goal to 3-and-out every single time. You have to figure something out. You have to make some stuff happen. Bo Nix overthrew a wide open guy like 3 times not yesterday, Sunday. So that's on him. He's got to figure that out. Saints Seahawks, not much to talk about. This one was over in the blink of an eye, 44-13. Cowboys Bears. The Cowboys defense is actually pathetic. And I mean, not to say that the Bears are just such a bad offense, but like they dominated them. And now they don't have CD for 3 to 4 weeks. Guy on my fantasy team. Another guy on my fantasy team is James Conner, Cardinals Niners. He is out for the year. Um, and that was brutal for me. This game wasn't too much. It wasn't too much to watch. Just kind of a tough divisional game. Niners squeaked one out with the Eddie Pinheiro, fresh off practice squad, or fresh off of waivers or free agency, fresh off his couch, I guess you'd say, to kick the game-winning field goal. Chiefs 22-9 over the Giants. Pretty typical, what you'd expect there. Lions 38-30 over the Ravens. That was a really entertaining game, even though it really, it was close the whole time. Felt like it was back and forth, but also felt like the Lions were just really giving it to the Ravens. I mean, offensive or defensive line was for sure. Predictions for this next week. So we got the Seahawks and the Cardinals. tomorrow. Give me the Seahawks. Even though it's in Arizona, give me the Seahawks. Vikings, Steelers in Dublin, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Give me the Steelers. Give me the Steelers there. Then we got the Commanders and the Falcons in Atlanta. I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think they bounced back a little bit. I think the Commanders are a little shaky. And I could, even when they were good last year, they had a couple games that were just, you're like, how'd they lose that? Give me the Falcons. Chargers, Giants. Chargers, easy. Titans, Texans. I think this is two 0-3 teams. I think it's in Houston. The Texans get their first win here. Eagles, Buccaneers in Tampa. Give me the Bucks. Give me Baker with a clutch game win. Maybe a field goal, maybe a touchdown, whatever. Baker seals it in the clutch. That's my prediction. Uh, Panthers, Patriots. Give me the Patriots. It's in Foxborough. Give me the Patriots. Saints, Bills, and Buffalo. Come on, Buffalo. Browns, Lions, and Detroit. Come on, that's Detroit. Jags, Niners, in San Francisco. I'm gonna go with the Niners. Colts, Rams in LA. This one's actually tough because I like both of these teams. I think they're both good, but I think the Rams lost in dramatic fashion. Game they probably should have won, and I think they bounced back this week against a team that's riding a very big high. Kind of one of those highs where like I'm not saying they're overachieving because I took them off the overachieving list, but like none of those guys expected to be 3-0, and if they did, they're probably full of shit. So I'm going with the Rams. Um, Bears, Raiders in Las Vegas. Give me the Bears. Ravens, Chiefs in Kansas City. Whew, man, I think again the Ravens lost in maybe not dramatic fashion, but like disappointing fashion. Kind of embarrassing fashion. Derrick Henry with another late fumble. Lamar gets sacked 7 times. I'd say a lot of them were his fault. He was not making good decisions. Um, I think the Ravens come back this week and they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Saying that sounds like it's going to bite me in the ass. Packers, Cowboys in Dallas Sunday night. Wow. Does not get more of a headline than that. Packers by multiple scores because I think the Cowboys just suck. Their defense is terrible. And I mean the Packers defense is incredible. So give me the Packers by multiple scores. Jets, Dolphins in Miami. Give me the Jets. Jets actually have shown me a little something. Give me the Jets. Bengals, Broncos in Denver. I don't think I'm a homer for saying that we should win this game, and I think we should win by multiple scores. Um, I mean, look at what happened with them in Minnesota. I think we're better than Minnesota. We should win this game confidently, especially after the last 2 weeks. Those are my picks for week 4. MVP ladder. I got Justin Herbert, number 1. I mean, not just the fact that he's 3-0, putting up big numbers. I mean, that pass against us, against the Broncos, was genuinely heroic. That is an MVP moment right there. He's number 1. I got Jackson moved down to 2. Made some questionable decisions in that Lions game. Still really good, obviously, but I got a number 2. Number 3, Danny Dimes. I got Daniel Jones, number 3. I mean, why shouldn't he be? Tell me why Daniel Jones shouldn't be third in the MVP race. He's got the numbers. He's scoring touchdowns. They're 3-0. They've beaten some good teams. Well, they beat a good team. Dolphins are really bad. Titans are really bad. I take that back. They beat the Broncos, who are still a losing record, but I think we're a good team. I think Danny Dimes should be here. Josh Allen, number 4, speaks for itself. Maybe if he had some better individual numbers, he'd probably be higher in this list. Surprise stars of the week. I did this as like surprise stars of the year last week, but it was because it was my first one of the season. I'm going to go, do this week by week. Trey Tucker, 8 catches, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns. They were throwing the ball a lot because they're playing catch up against the Commanders, but the numbers speak for itself. I think he had like 5 or 6 catches on the year in the 2 weeks before that. So 8 catches, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns. That is unbelievable. And if you were first or second in the waiver order in your fantasy league, you were picking up this guy. And if you weren't, what the hell are you doing? David Montgomery, 12 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 huge runs. One for 72 yards. He got hawked down, but still really impressive moves he made to break free. And then at the end of the game, I think it was a 30-plus yard run for a touchdown. Just really impressive stuff. Mark Andrews, 6 catches, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I don't know his actual numbers, but I know through fantasy he had less than 3 points combined through the first 2 weeks. Then he drops a game like this. So that is a surprise to me, given the year he was having. Disappointments. It pains me that this guy has not been taken off the list since last week, but Chase Brown with another absolute dud. 10 carries for 3 yards. That's 3 more yards than me on 10 more carries. I mean, and there's some context to this. You know, the Vikings have one of the best front seven in the league, and they're without Joe Burrow, and it was just all a mess. It wasn't entirely his fault, but nonetheless, 10 carries for 3 yards, bro. Like you didn't get one burst, you didn't get one breakaway or one break through the line, even. Like, oh my god. So that's pathetic, unacceptable, and still on my fantasy team. Keep in mind everything I've said. I have Chase Brown, who sucks. James Conner is out for the year. CD is out for multiple weeks. My team is a mess. It is an absolute mess. Malik Neighbors, 2 catches, 13 yards, coming off of a savage game against the Cowboys, lays a huge dud against the Chiefs. And he had 7 targets, too, just couldn't get on the right page, couldn't make it happen. So that's very unfortunate for him, very unfortunate for his fantasy owners. Zay Flowers, 2 catches, 13 yards as well. And I believe he had 0 yards at halftime against Detroit. That is, oh boy, that is bad. And he had some really good games to start the year. But I had Zay Flowers on my fantasy team last year, and I can tell you he has games like this where it's just, you feel like they don't even remember that he's out there. Predictions and takes that I made last week. I predicted that the Chargers will win the AFC West, which is like about as much of a guarantee as you can make through 3 weeks. They're 3-0, 2 games ahead of any other team in the division, and they've beaten each team in the division already. That is about as ideal of a scenario as you could possibly imagine. So good for them, I guess. And I also have them making the AFC Championship in the same take. I think that's going to happen. Not much has changed on that, really, since between then and last week. I mean, we gave them a run for their money, maybe be more convincing if they dominated us. But nonetheless, like I said, I think the Broncos are a better team than 1 and 2. Call me a homer for that. But I think the Chargers are legit. And the plays that Justin Herbert's making, man, that's the MVP right now. This was the proudest take I had. I said the Buccaneers will win several more games like this, referring to 2 close clutch scenario wins through the first 2 weeks. And that is exactly what happened in week 3. So I'm proud of that one. I'm sticking by it. I think they're going to continue to do it. The one take that I am dropping after 1 week, I said the Bengals stay afloat till Burrow returns. That is not happening. And I think the Vikings was the game that you would think, well, that's a game they could stay afloat against another backup quarterback, and they hadn't looked super impressive overall through their first 2 weeks. Yeah, we can beat this team, with Jake Browning, who still got us a win last week. Nope. And they play the Broncos this week in Denver. It's going to get real ugly for Cincinnati. I'm not going to lie. It is going to get ugly. So that's how I feel about that. I already gave my Broncos rant, so that's pretty much all I got for you. It is currently 6:52 p.m. Wednesday, September 24th. I'm going to try and have this video up later tonight, if not early tomorrow morning on Thursday. And I'm going to continue to do these every Wednesday, try and have it up by Thursday morning. So I appreciate if you listened or if you watched, if you're checking it out on YouTube. Wherever you're watching, please go in the comments. Tell me what you think about the podcast. How you liking it so far? Tell me what are some of these takes of mine that you agree or disagree with the most? Who is on your MVP ladder? How do you feel about Danny Dimes on the MVP ladder? Tell me why Danny Dimes should be on the MVP ladder. That's what I dare you to tell me in the comments. Anyways, this has been another episode of The Manager presented by Outlier Sports. I'm your host, Gianni Frangella, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.